Welcome to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast, brought to you by TournamentPokerEdge.com, the only podcast dedicated exclusively to poker tournament strategy. Now here's your host, Clayton Fletcher.
Hello once again, everybody, and welcome to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast, sponsored by ACR Poker, where this coming Sunday, the 5th of May, Cinco de Mayo, it is the return of the OSSXL, the online Super Series Extra Large, with over $40 million in guaranteed prize pools, May 5th through the 27th. My name is Clayton Fletcher, and I am in gorgeous, incredibly safe, bucolic New York City, where I have been ridiculously busy with so many different projects, comedy projects, poker projects, a lot of good things coming down the pipeline, but I wasn't too busy to catch a little bit of the Venom final table. I'm talking, of course, about the $12.5 million record-breaking tournament that happened this week on ACR Poker, and our very own Chris Moneymaker, yes, that Chris Moneymaker, the man, nay, the legend, who started the poker boom back in 2003 by winning the main event, that very same Chris Moneymaker made the final table of this record-breaking tournament and finished in 6th place. An amazing accomplishment considering how many world-class players were in the field. Interestingly enough, though, Moneymaker actually first joined ACR years ago after making the final table of a different Venom tournament. So he's been playing on ACR for a long time. He got a lot of attention when it looked like he might win that Venom many years ago. And that final table, when he came in 4th, was the catalyst for him joining the site as a team pro. And now here he is, years later, making that final table once again. It's very impressive. But there was other news, of course, around this tournament, notably that several bots, quote unquote, cashed in this thing. And, you know, it's very, very unfortunate when this happens. Any type of cheating in online poker or live poker is bad for everyone involved. It's bad for the game. And I want to share my personal opinion. Now, this is not a statement from ACR. I'm not representing the company right now or anything like that. I just want to share my thoughts on the subject. What happened was, once these NPCs were discovered in the money of the Venom, ACR security investigated, and all of those non-human players were forced to sit out for the remainder of the tournament. Now, I think that is the right decision. Don't take those chips out of play, but take those players out of contention. And obviously, needless to say, no prizes would be awarded to these bot machine players, the NPCs, if you will. Look, this isn't pretty. All online sites deal with all types of cheating. Ghosting, bots, multi-accounting, RTA, what have you. ACR, like all operators, is taking reasonable measures to try to catch these hackers and make the site as fair as it can be for everyone involved. But if it's not good enough for you and you don't want to play on my favorite poker site, obviously that is your prerogative. But if you think that there is any poker website in the world that is 100% immune to this and other forms of cheating, I've got news for you. The reality is there will probably always be some form of cheating on every online poker site in existence, and it's everyone's job to fight it. All right, enough about that. Big congrats to my friend Chris Moneymaker on yet another deep run in the Venom on ACR Poker. I want to move on to a review of last week's strategy segment, in which we reviewed a few hands from the 2023 World Series of Poker main event, but this time I want to use a tool called GTO Wizard. Now, GTO Wizard is more than just a solver. It is an all-purpose poker tool to help you study, practice, and analyze hands that you've played and locate mistakes in your game and things that you need to do better if you're ever going to be able to compete with the Chris Moneymakers of the world. And I have a deal for you. I want you guys to try this program. You can get 24 hours free access and save 10% off your first purchase on GTO Wizard by using the link in the description of this podcast. It's our affiliate link, and that is gtowizard.com/p/TPE. So to recap the hand, Jesse Lonis opened in a blind versus blind situation. So he entered from the small. He opened to 4 big blinds with ace-8 offsuit, and Andrew Becker shoved for 22 big blinds effective, and Lonis decided to fold. Now, Jesse started this hand with 40 big blinds, so calling off would have cost him more than half of his stack, but I just thought he should shove to begin with. You know, blind versus blind, you have ace-8. Your opponent only has 22 bigs. I think it's totally cool. Just go ahead and stick it in there. But yeah, he went for the raise to 4 big blinds and then folding. And it turns out, guys, the solver is with me. The solver prefers just open shoving at this stack depth. Now, I assume that Jesse Lonis must have had some reason. Look, he's a world-class player. He's way better at poker than I am. And I'm sure he had some logical reason for not just shoving here. But whatever his reason for not pushing, he actually ended up getting outplayed as Mr. Becker actually had ace-7. But you know, I was thinking about this, guys, and one thing that happens in the main event is everybody feels like they should play differently than they might normally play because it's such a great structure. It's very slow. You might not necessarily have to make all of the plus EV plays that you identify because there is so much room in this thing. And as you know, it's a marathon, not a sprint. All right, let's do another hand from last week and see what GTO Wizard has to say. John Quattlebaum opens. Again, the blinds were still 1K and 1,500 with a 1,500 big blind ante. And Quattlebaum from the low jack min raises to 3,000. On his immediate left is Davis Modan of Latvia, who 3-bet to 12,500. And next to act in the cutoff with the ace of clubs, queen of clubs, was Joseph Servo with a stack of 33,000, just 22 big blinds. And Servo shoves, Quattlebaum folds, and Modans calls with ace-10 offsuit. So Servo had him in very bad shape. But let's see what GTO Wizard has to say about the shove in the first place. And you guys may recall last week, I wasn't thoroughly convinced that ace-queen suited would be a shove facing this much heat on such a short stack. But yeah, it is 99% shove. So the solver really likes the play by Servo. Quattlebaum folded, which the solver likes, leaving it up to Modans, and he is supposed to fold. It's a pure fold with ace-10 offsuit in Modans' shoes. And I really love being able to go back and look at these hands and get the GTO perspective on everything that's going on. You know, and if you have any trouble remembering what to do with 20 big blinds, 25 big blinds, 40 big blinds, or even 10 big blinds, you just put all the different variables in, and then GTO Wizard gives you the correct theoretical solution. All right, let's move on. I want to go to day 3 of last year's main event. The blinds were 1,000 and 2,500. And on PokerGo, they focused on Tom Dwan's table, which also featured Adam Friedman. And we're going to talk through this hand today in Mr. Friedman's shoes. It's quite early on day 3, nowhere near the money yet. And Clément Richet of France opens from second position to 5,000 at 1K 2,500 with a 2,500 big blind ante, and he's got a stack of 118. So Richet is just under 50 big blinds, And we're not going to reveal his hand just yet because we're going to play from the perspective of Adam Friedman, who is in the hijack holding the king of clubs, jack of clubs. And he's got a very similar stack to Richer, the original raiser. So what should Friedman do with king jack suited? Now, there are a lot of ways to look at this. We've got just under 50 bigs. We've also got an M of 20, which is just pre-flop SPR. There's 6,000 in the middle as the cards are being dealt, and we have 20 times that in our stack. I think this is probably a mix between calling and 3-betting. I don't think we really need to ever fold this hand. Although if you want to fold, honestly, guys, that's not so bad. I mean, it's an early position raise. You have a fairly marginal hand. You also have Tom Dwan sitting on your left, and we all know that he's capable of a light 3-bet or even a light 4-bet, given the circumstances. So it may be just fine to throw this hand away. Like I said a minute ago, the main event is a marathon, and you can do really well just kind of staying out of marginal, difficult situations. And we used to call King Jack and King 10 trap hands because they're not as good as they look. And I would say that is even more true when facing a raise from early position. So I'm actually cool with any of the 3 available options. I probably would typically re-raise maybe 75% of the time and just call the other 25%. Although if I look to my left and I see Durr, I'm probably just going to throw my hand away. Anyway, Friedman opts to call. Everyone else folds, so we're going to be in position, playing the role of Adam Friedman, holding the king of clubs, jack of clubs, in position. And so, with 16,000 in the middle, the flop comes king of diamonds, queen of spades, 6 of spades, king, queen, 6 with 2 spades, hero with the king of clubs, jack of clubs, and Richer, the original raiser, checks, and the action is on Adam Friedman. I mean, I think we usually want to bet here with top pair and a decent kicker. We've also got 3 to a straight, but we don't have backdoor clubs, so we don't want to see a lot more spades, but that's pretty unlikely and not too much to worry about. It's probably fine to just check it back some of the time. This is probably also a mix, but I think, a reasonable bet here might be something like 5K into the 16,000 pot and probably take it down a good amount of the time. Instead, Friedman goes for the check back, which of course is also fine. He's got a 2 streets of value kind of hand, so we have to check at some point. Why not now? And also, you get more information by checking on the flop. Now, if the turn comes a brick and Richer checks again, I think Friedman would bet in that case. Instead, it comes the queen of hearts. So we check back on the flop, and now the turn is the queen of hearts pairing the board. So our board is now king of diamonds, queen of spades, 6 of spades, queen of hearts, and Richer checks once again. At this point, I don't think Friedman should bet. It's very difficult for him to get any value. Maybe pick up a curious call from a hand like pocket 9s, pocket 10s, I suppose. But suffice to say, this turn card is not a brick, and our opponent has a good amount of queen jack, queen 10, ace queen in his range. So I don't think there's much value in betting this card. I would check behind. Adam Friedman also checks behind. So this is a small pot, and on the river, it's the ace of spades, which completes everything. Our final board of king, queen, 6, queen, ace, with 3 spades. So the flush got there, ace X got there, and the straight got there. And now Richer bets 6,000 into the 16,000 pot. I like to think I'd be able to fold a pair of kings, but, he's getting a pretty decent price. And Richer has to be bluffing some of the time, right? So I guess calling isn't terrible. We're probably supposed to call just enough to keep him honest. I think I would just throw this one away. We actually can't beat anything but a bluff. But Friedman makes the call. And his logic is probably, look, I played my hand so slow. I under-repped my hand so much. I need to have bluff catchers, and this pair of kings is good enough. As it turns out, the Frenchman had pocket sixes. So he flopped a set, slow played it, turned a full house, slow played it again. And then when everything got there on the river, he still managed to get paid just a little bit for his monster. All right, let's do one more hand from day 3 of last year's main event. A player named Brian Atchison, who is an amateur player. He's actually a bowling alley owner from South Dakota, and he opens from the hijack to 6,000. Now the blinds are 1K and 2,500, and Atchison makes it 6,000 at a table where mostly everybody was just doing a min raise. But look, if you are at a skill disadvantage at your table, your raise sizing should be a little bit larger. That is one way for you to increase your variance, which is exactly what you want to do if you're a small business owner from the Midwest who is somehow seated at the televised featured table in the biggest tournament of the year to the right of Adam Friedman and ACR pro Tom Dwan. Yes, raise bigger. I think you should make it 7,500 or 10,000. But he's got King 10, so maybe he should just fold, because it's going to be tough for Mr. Atchison if either of these top pros decides to turn up the heat and he's just sitting there with a trap hand, King 10 offsuit. But no, he makes it 6,000, and the action folds all the way to the big blind, which is Martin Vallaya de Solero of Chile. Now, from now on, I'm just going to call him VDS. And VDS calls from out of the big blind with a hand I have yet to reveal, and his stack is 192,000. Atchison is sitting on 266. So both of these guys are really deep early on day 3. So the pot is now 15,500, and the flop comes King of Spades, 10 of Diamonds, 4 of Spades. King 10-4 with 2 spades. Hero with the King of Clubs, 10 of Spades. So he's got top 2 pair and a backdoor 10 high flush draw. VDS checks, and the action is on Brian Atchison. I think we always want to bet this flop, of course, with this particular hand, but we should probably almost always bet this flop with our entire range. And the reason is simple. Boards with 2 high and 1 low cards, they just heavily favor the in-position pre-flop raiser. So we've got a range advantage, we've got a nuts advantage. It's time to bet. And Atchison agrees. He puts in 6,000 into the pot of 15,500, and VDS from Chile makes the call. So now, with 27,500 in the middle, the turn comes the 8 of Spades. So that puts 3 spades on the board of King 10, 4, 8. Hero with King 10, including the 10 of Spades. And our opponent checks once again. I think I would probably bet this card as well. We should still be able to get action from probably King X, 10X, especially if our opponent has a high spade in his hand. I believe 2 pair is good enough to try to get some more value. I think I'd put in about 18,000 into 27, so just about 2/3 of the pot. Feels right to me. Atchison bets, but he only puts in 10,000, so he's betting 10K into 27.5, at which point VDS raises to 45,000. So look, we've got 2 pair and a flush draw. Is that enough hand to call this rather large turn check raise? I think it is. I mean, it's the main event. In the main event, you're usually going to be up against a flush in this situation, but people do bluff. There's some chance that VDS is just fooling around, like with the bare ace of spades in his hand. But more likely, we're going to be behind here. But the question is, well, we know we can win if we hit a king, or probably a 10. But if we hit another spade, will that be good enough to win the pot? And I think very often it will, especially with this aggressive large sizing. This is often like 2 small spades that don't want to see another spade come off on the river where they might lose to a higher flush. It's just too much going on for me. I would be worried I could be behind, but I would think that I'm certainly drawing live, and plus I'm in position. So if things get hot and heavy on the river, I'll find out soon enough. I'm calling 35K more, and Atchison agrees he calls as well. And now with 117,500 in the middle, Villain with only 132 in his stack, the river comes another spade, the Jack of Spades for the final board of King of Spades. 10 of diamonds, 4 of spades, 8 of spades, Jack of Spades. Look at all those spades. Hero with King 10, including the 10 of spades, and VDS, who had check raised on the turn, now bets 75,000 into 117.5, and I think now we have to give up. This is just the ace of spades 99 times out of 100. There's no way I'm paying this off with the 10 of spades. I don't think I would pay it off with the queen of spades. In my experience, this is always the ace of spades. So I fold. Mr. Atchison snap calls, and the announcers even noted how quickly he called the check raise on the turn and insta-called this bet on the river. And he saw the bad news when Martin Villaya de Soleil roll turned over the ace of spades, deuce of spades. So he had turned the nuts and pretty much got maximum value for his hand. And that'll do it for this episode. Guys, if you want to join ACR Poker, there couldn't be a better time. We have a link in the description of this podcast where you can receive a 100% first-time deposit bonus up to $2,000 just by clicking the link in the description and using the promo code TPE. And for everyone here at Tournament Poker Edge, with special thanks as always to our very generous sponsor, ACR Poker, I'm Clayton Fletcher. Thank you so much for listening.
I wanna hold them like they do in Texas Plays. Fold them, let them hit me, raise it, baby, stay with me. Lock in intuition, play the cards with babes to start. And after she's been hooked, I'll play the one that's on her heart. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I'll get her heart, show her what I got. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I'll get her heart, show her what I got. Can't read mine, no she can't read my poker face. She's got to love nobody. Can't read mine, no she can't read my poker face. She's got to love nobody. Poker face, poker face. Poker face, poker face. I wanna roll with her, a hard pair we will be. While little gambling is fun when you're with me. I love it. Russian roulette is not the same without a gun. And baby, when it's love, it's not rough, it isn't fun. Oh, whoa.